Okay. Yeah. Yes.
What are the strategies to deal with other countries such as China and India that are starting to get industrialized as far as climate change? And what is the Washington response to that?
Do you want to take that one? Grab that back.
Well, obviously, we want to continue to press nations around the world to be partners with this in this effort to deal with climate change. But quite frankly, it's hard for us to be pressing other nations when we're not taking a strong enough leadership role here, because we don't have a Congress that is unified in fighting the effects of climate change. So I think it really has to start at the local, state, and federal level here to elect candidates that share that vision of combating climate change, and then we can lead better by example and have the world follow our example.
That makes a lot of sense.
Great answer.
Can I just add one thing? Just to illustrate this point, I was in India last year, and we met with the minister of what would be equivalent to the minister of the Interior, because about a third of the children in India develop asthma because the air quality is so poor. And we pressed him and said, what are you doing about, carbon emissions, and how are you addressing this? And they were very frank. They said, we're kind of follow the example of America. We're just going to keep doing it. We've got to grow our economy. We've got to get people to work, and we're going to worry about it later. And so anyone who thinks it doesn't matter what America does in terms of our leadership on this issue, that's just one example.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Question for the state delegation. How do you plan to work together with the State House and the executive offices to build out some realistic targets and to put what got started with the Resilient Rhode Island Act into full gear?
So, to be fair, it's still, I think there's a lot of folks that might not be as familiar with it. So again, the Resilient Rhode Island Act was a law that we just passed this last session. A lot of what it did was to codify the strong executive order that Governor Chafee put in place for the creating what sometimes is called now the EC4, the Executive Committee on Climate Change Coordinating Council. But I think a lot of the real fundamentals that come out of it, for one thing, it sets strong targets for carbon reductions over the next 30 years, 35 years, to get us to an 80% reduction by 2050. And we've been hearing that we actually think there's possibilities of achieving those kinds of numbers even by as early as 2030. The next steps that I see along the way are first looking at the vulnerability assessments that I know are going to be coming out of this work, and then preparing to respond to them. This bill really was sort of the first step in really setting the stage, and I think that's why I really appreciate what Governor Chafee did in putting the executive order in place, because it made it put us almost a year ahead of where we would have been, I think, even if we'd been able to pass this legislation last year. So I look forward to working with all of the folks at the state level, the treasurer, the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the secretary of state in making that happen. But I also, again, as we were talking about earlier, I look forward to working with school committees and city councils and mayors as well to make these things happen. So I think there's lots of opportunities. So I'm happy to.
Thank you. And I think the role for the Lieutenant Governor in the three councils that the Lieutenant Governor chairs is to begin to help, the system of long-term care, to begin to help small businesses, and to begin to help, emergency management infrastructure embed environmental principles into that work. I think that's the leadership role that the Lieutenant Governor needs to play, that it's not something we're doing separately. It's something that's very much a part of all the other work that we're doing. So that, I believe, will be my role in implementing the law.
Yep, thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
As mayor, what is the first thing that you're going to do as far as environment?
Thank you very much.
The first is to bring a perspective that environmental issues and sustainability issues are a big concern. Very moved by the fact that we're the first generation to feel the effects of climate change we're perhaps the last generation that can do something about it. And so we have to work with urgency to make sure that we promote our sustainability agenda through the Office of Sustainability and embed it through everything we do in the city, through the schools, through our streets, and through our neighborhoods. And so that's the first thing you have to do, bring that perspective of urgency.
But do you think, is it going to be transportation? Is that what you're going to focus on first, or compost, or like what are you planning on, like just the more concrete, like first issue under the umbrella?
Oh, for sure. And specific plans. I want to get to work right away to make sure that we're promoting a pedestrian-friendly, a bike-friendly, and a public transportation-friendly city. There's a lot that we can do through City Hall. Also, I want to make sure that we continue to support and promote community gardens throughout the city. It has a wonderful way of bringing community together, bringing young and old, rich and poor all together around, growing local food. And then there's a lot that we have to do at a policy level to make sure that we really enhance the pipeline of getting food from farm to market, and in particular also from farm to our schools. I want to make sure that every single child throughout our city plays some role in growing their own food, because they make healthier food choices and because it's just good for embedding this environmentally friendly perspective throughout the city. So there's a lot of steps that we need to take, and we're going to be strategic, and we're going to focus on areas where there's already a lot of great momentum. We're going to continue to support the Office of Sustainability.
And you said one line that really stuck out to me was saying that you want our transportation policy to put people first rather than cars. Can you elaborate on more of the specifics of that? What does that mean?
Well, we've had a transportation policy that for a very long time, it's promoted the use of cars and not necessarily the kind of city where people want to live. So for example, our zoning ordinance, it currently has minimum parking requirements. So it really forces us to pave over more of our land. It reduces our green space, and it allows for more parking space. When people want to be more pedestrian friendly, people want to ride their bikes more. Well, let's allow for this, and let's make sure that we have commercial space integrated with retail space, integrated with residential space, so people can walk to their local shops and their local bakeries, etc. And those are all steps that we can take through the zoning ordinance and also through transportation policy. We have to get to a point where we're designing our city around people and not cars.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me. I hope you have a good day.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.